What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It's Horror Fan 34, and welcome to another video. And welcome to day 5 of the 31 Days of Horror Challenge in October. Now we are getting on to, we're stepping out of the 80s sort of genre. We sort of started that with Maniac Cop 2 in 1990. Now I figured I'd stick around more in the 90s with another horror film that I think was released in, I believe, 1997 this was. I'm very positive this was 1997. I think it says here on the back. Yeah, 1997. There we go. And this is like one of those like 90s horror films that does not get brought up at all. And I just think it's a very solid film. And when it comes to like 90s horror films, I think this is definitely one of the more underrated ones. And I think it's definitely one of the best ones, and that of course is Wishmaster. I'm going to talk about the first Wishmaster. This is a double pack with the first and second movie, but the first Wishmaster came out in 1997, directed by Robert Kurtzman. This is the same guy that's part of K&B, who do special makeup effects on a lot of movies. Yeah, Robert Kurtzman and God, I'm forgetting his other name. Howard Berger. There we go. Howard Berger, who actually has a supporting cameo in this film. But now, the basic idea with Wishmaster, it kind of says it for itself. You have this evil genie called the Jinn, and he grants wishes to people, and he is able to like manipulate the wishes and put twists and turns on it, and with lethal consequences and things like that. And that's pretty much the entire plot of the film. Now, first off, and I tell you, this movie has a lot of like horror cameos that you'll know from a lot of other things. Well, first off, you have Andrew Divoff as the Wishmaster himself. Always been a huge fan of Andrew Divoff. He was the bad guy in Toy Soldiers. He was the bad guy in A Low Down Dirty Shame. Been in a lot of stuff. Look up Andrew Divoff. It's amazing how many things this guy's been in. But everybody probably knows him best from Wishmaster, especially the first two films that he was in. But he does a great job as the Wishmaster. In a way, Andrew Divoff's character of the Wishmaster kind of reminds me of Tony Todd's Candyman. What I mean by that is like their voice. Like you can tell like they have the perfect voice for that character. It's kind of like how you can sense Tony Todd's voice when he does Candyman. That deep voice that fills the room. And that's the same way with Andrew Divoff as the Wishmaster. He has that certain voice that's just deep and just fills the room, and you can tell he's there. And Andrew Divoff just does a magnificent job as the Wishmaster. The main female lead in this, you have Tammy Lauren, who I think did a good job as well. And now, going on to like some of the like horror cameos that you have you have Kane Hodder, Jason Voorhees himself from Part 7 through 10 of Friday the 13th. He has a little cameo in this as a security guard who gets killed by the Wishmaster. Other cameos, you have Robert Englund as this art museum director, which kind of plays into the gory as hell third act of the film in the museum and things like that. So it was cool to see Robert Englund. You have Tony Todd in a cameo as he's like a guy outside of a nightclub. He like lets people in and things like that. So Tony Todd has a little cameo. Other cameos, you have people like Ted Raimi in a cameo from he was an intruder, and he gets crushed by a crate. He gets a crate dropped on him. And one of the things that really stands out to me, there's two main things in this film that really stand out to me. First off, it is Andrew Divoff as the Wishmaster. I think he's the highlight of the film. And then the second biggest highlight of the film, I would say, is the special effects. Yeah, there are a few like digital effects that don't really hold up the best, because you got to take into account it was 1997. So there's a lot of digital work that's not really the greatest looking when you look at it nowadays. But The practical effects done with the gore and the deaths and all that stuff is extremely creative and extremely practical and very well done. Probably because you have Robert Kurtzman and Howard Berger doing the effects. So not only is Robert Kurtzman directing the film, but he's also doing the effects. And K&B is definitely one of the best teams when it comes to like special makeup effects. I mean, you look up their filmography and all the stuff they worked on, it is amazing. All the stuff they did in the 80s and the 90s, and just look up how many things they did in their whole career. It's very amazing how many projects they worked on that are just so well done when it comes to their special effects. I think they even had a hand a little bit in the practical effects on Bats with Lou Diamond Phillips. But that's the one thing. The thing is with this film, it's so creative when it comes to like the death sequences. I'm not going to spoil a whole lot about the deaths, but it's extremely creative. They're gory as hell. It's R-rated. They don't hold anything back, which is nice. And I like the whole idea about this genie who grants you wishes, but like when you wish for something, he can twist and turn them around a little bit, and they can possibly have bad consequences. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's kind of a unique idea having this evil genie grant wishes, but he can make them very deadly because he can do anything he wants to with them. And kind of like twist them around. And I really love the design of the Wishmaster, Andrew Divoff. I think the design of him is really fantastic up there. I really like the way he looks. And once again, probably because you have Howard K&B doing the effects and all that stuff, and the makeup looks great. I think Robert Kurtzman did a very fantastic job directing this film, and I know he didn't really go on to direct a whole lot of films after this. I think he did one called The Rage, which also had Andrew Divoff in it, but I don't really remember that one that much, so I don't really know can't comment on that. Then he probably did like maybe one other thing after that, and then he didn't really direct much. He mainly was a makeup effects guy, which is a shame because I think he did a good job on the first one. And honestly, though, this is only the really good Wishmaster film, because Part 2, Part 3 and 4, forget it. Because Part 3 and 4 didn't even have Andrew Divoff in it. And I think out of all of them, when it comes to like the female lead, I think Tammy Lauren was the best of the four, out of the four films. Although AJ Cook in Part 3, who was in Final Destination 2, I like her, but that character was written so poorly and things like that. But I think Tammy Lauren is definitely the best female lead out of the four Wishmaster films. But I wouldn't say she's like one of my favorite female leads in a horror film. I still put like, Heather Langenkamp and Amy Steele or, Tuesday Night or, things like that above her. But I still like Tammy Lauren. But Andrew Divoff and it was just cool to like see people in here like Kane Hodder, Ted Raimi, Robert Englund, Tony Todd. It was just cool to see all these cameos by horror actors, probably because K&B probably worked a little bit with those guys. So, it makes a lot of sense why they would have cameos. But if you want a good, little solid 90s horror film, I think Wishmaster is definitely one that you have to check out. I would definitely say it's one of the best horror films from the 90s. I would say it's up there for me with like things like Candyman and Lake Placid. Like some of the best like 90s horror films I'm thinking of, like Candyman, Lake Placid, The Sixth Sense, Stir of Echoes, Wishmaster. But the 90s didn't really have as many iconic horror films outside of maybe like Candyman. When you think of like 80s horror, you kind of think of more titles, but I think Wishmaster is definitely one of the best horror films from the 90s. And if you want to see kind of like a unique story about a genie and things like that, I think it's definitely worth a look for you. So that is pretty much it for my review for Wishmaster. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.